And we are back. Welcome to the SoapBox, where people who work, volunteer, and care about recovery tell us who they are and what they're most passionate about. My name is Rich Jones, RN, and I represent Parenting Your Child in Recovery.com and the home website, secondstars.com. That's number two, Wendy, STARTS.com. Today, my guest is Elizabeth Kipp. Elizabeth is a recovery coach, an ancestral clearing practitioner, which we're definitely going to get more into that, okay, and an international best-selling author. Okay, Elizabeth blends neuroscience, somatic awareness, and spiritual wisdom to help people release ancestral and personal patterns of suffering. Elizabeth, hello, and how are you, dear?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on as a guest. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. Elizabeth, as always, I ask my guests, give me a thorough cliff note of who you are and how you got here. Give us some basis for who Elizabeth Kipp is.
Okay, thank you so much. So I really grew up in a family that we had a roof over our head, and I had clothes and good food and always plenty of it, but there was a lot of dysfunction in the family. And as a consequence, my brother, I just have one brother. My brother and I really learned to walk on eggshells when we were little, and that creates a pattern in the nervous system of being hypervigilant all the time, right? I'm a stress management specialist, but I really specialize in the chronic pain end of that. And chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. The brain can't tell the difference between one kind of pain and another. People think like chronic pain is just physical. It's all of it. The brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone that won't heal and a broken heart.
Wow.
It's all the same, right? So walking on eggshells is an example of chronic stress, chronic pain.
Okay.
So a dysfunctional family, and I had an accident when I was 14 and broke a vertebrae in my spine, which I didn't know was broken at the time. And it took many years for it to actually get to the point where it got my attention. And then I had chiropractors. We would say, "Oh, you've got a broken bone in there," right? And I was like, "Oh, I know when that happened," right? So that's interesting, because you would think that when somebody breaks a bone, that would register with them.
Yeah.
But that gives you an idea of how much chronic pain I was used to living with going into that accident.
Right.
I was able to walk away, but it hurt, but it didn't. I didn't, like my dad, was with my dad. It's like, I fell today. I fell off a horse, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, I hurt, but I was walking around and stuff." We never even got an x-ray.
Wow.
Right. So, and the trainer I was with, he didn't, he just like, "I'm going home." Right. So it was kind of like that. So anyway, I ended up having a bunch of surgery to stabilize that slip, because the bone didn't break. The fifth lumbar broke, but the front part of it slipped forward and pulled the leg nerves with it. And they were concerned that I wouldn't be able to walk. So it took a bunch of different surgeries to stabilize that slip. And in the process of that, I had more and more pain and more opiates and benzodiazepines for the anxiety, the pain and the anxiety, because that's all the doctors had. That was their answer. And their other answer was, "You have chronic pain. You can't heal from chronic pain." So I fortunately had a science background when I have a training in plant science and environmental studies, and I was trained as a research scientist. So I knew about the scientific method. And I knew when the doctors told me, I was like, "Well, they're the experts. They must know." But when they said, "You can't heal from chronic pain," I was devastated. And then I was like, "Wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture?" And I was like, "Oh, scientific paradigms shift. They're operating in a scientific paradigm. That's their understanding. And they've forgotten their basic science, which is, you can't comment on anything that is outside of science." So they're models operating within the scientific method, but we live in the all that is, not just in the part that science can talk about.
Right.
And we heal in the all that is. So I knew I was going to have to reference the all that is for my healing, because the scientific framework didn't have the knowledge. They didn't have all the knowledge, right? Because benzos and opiates are not the answer. That was all they had to keep my quality of life the best that they could. And that really kind of, it kept me, I mean, I kept going, but I had lots of acupuncture and massage, and I did very gentle yoga, and those kinds of things kept me going until I could actually find a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain, was able to get me off all the medication and help me actually heal the chronic pain in the first place. Here was the thing. The doctors that originally diagnosed me, until I met this doctor at the end, they all said, you can't heal from chronic pain, but they never asked the question, why isn't Elizabeth healing? They just assumed I wouldn't. So how is a patient supposed to handle that? Right? How are you supposed to, like, what are you supposed to do with that? Right. So I was lucky that I had the science background and understood the limitations they were working in. And I knew they were telling me more about the limitations of the model they were working on than they were telling me about the body's ability to heal.
Okay.
And I just didn't need to, further investigate that aspect of it. So I went into this program with Dr. Peter Prescott with 40 years of chronic pain. 52 days later, I walked out drug-free and pain-free.
Okay.
And he had a 94% success rate in that program. So it wasn't just like, I'm so special. It wasn't like that. It was like he understood chronic pain. He knew how to heal from it. And I did. The thing is that there were lots of people that were there. This doctor was unusual. His name was Dr. Peter Prescott. He wrote a book called he wrote a book called Conquer Chronic Pain Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach. And then my book, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power, is like his was the doctory one, and mine was the this is what it's like to be a chronic pain sufferer and heal from it. Like, so it was the two of us, kind of, those two books kind of go together. But there are lots of doctors that didn't have Dr. Prescott's training, and they're still out there saying you can't heal from chronic pain. And
they're out there.
My message is like, yeah, you can, and you don't have to use pharmaceuticals to do it. And so that's where I'm coming from. Okay. Also in recovery, everyone I know that's in recovery, addiction recovery, was a chronic pain sufferer first. Okay. And everyone I know that was a chronic pain sufferer first was someone who had unresolved trauma in their system. Okay. So this is a question about unresolved trauma. And so I really, my mission, yes, stress management. I do the historical trauma. I help, I'm not a therapist, so I don't do trauma therapy, but I am a yoga teacher, and I do trauma-informed yoga, and I'm a trauma-informed recovery coach.
Okay, very good.
I bring in those, but those are the things, those are why. That's my why. It's
okay, very, very good. We're going to move on. Before we go on, I just want to say, to the listeners, if you're a parent, mentor, or practitioner who loves, cares, or works with young adults at risk, in trouble, or maybe even in some type of program, parentingyourchildinrecovery.com is a non-clinical option that accelerates and multiplies the results of your evidence-based treatments. In the description, along with all of Elizabeth's information and how to contact her, because we're going to stuff all that. If you're seeing this on the YouTube, we'll get all our information in there for you. So, Elizabeth, this is the point where I asked you to get up on the soapbox, and we're going to talk about some of your points, and I want to get your mindset across to the audience so they can see how you're thinking. First thing I want to bring up to you, okay? Addiction is an adaptation to your environment. Fill that in for me.
Well, we have it's really an unhealthy adaptation to a maladaptive environment.
Okay.
And you could say, well, you know, like I said, we've got unresolved trauma in the system.
Okay.
And so now, which is disconnection. We've disconnected from our authenticity. We have to become chameleons in order to get along. We do people pleasing. We do fawning. We run away. We fight. We do all these things, and that fawning thing is codependency. That's called codependent behavior, right? So the people pleasing, right? That's an addictive behavior. So what we're trying to do is find actual safety in an environment where we're not safe. And the directive in the nervous system as an organism is to find safety. That's kind of where we go first. And when we can't find that, then we're in this place where we're fighting and we're running, or we're activated like that, but the body can't sustain. This is a little bit of a new paradigm around addiction. It's called the trauma feedback loop.
Okay.
The body can't actually sustain that heightened alert for long, so it goes into this other thing called dorsal, where it's in a shutdown, depressed. I can't move. I'm not motivated. And it can't sustain that forever. So it goes back up to this activated, and you switch between one and the other, because the nervous system, again, is trying to find safety, but it can't. So it does its best. Its second best is like, okay, I'm going to try and find it here, and I'll try and find it here. And it never really can find it until we actually process the trauma and recover from it. Okay. Addiction's in the middle. Addiction is the trauma feedback loop. That's what addiction is this switch. I'm trying to find safety, and it's painful in there. So what do? We turn to the first thing that can numb the pain, and there's plenty of it readily available in society. Yeah. Right. So this is the nervous system. This is the organism trying to find relief. Right. Okay. Yeah, when it can't, it actually can't find safety. And so, it gets stuck in this space. We have to do the work to fully recover from our trauma as part of recovery work. It's not just about just abstaining from the drug. It's actually going further and clearing whatever residue is there that got us into the addictive cycle to begin with.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Talk to me about something that I think about a lot and talk about a lot. Just dealing with the blame and the shame of addiction, because that's,
Well, that's a misunderstanding in society. There's actually no blame or shame in addiction, only understanding what you're dealing with and the responsibility to change. So that's a very neutral position. Like, this thing happened, I'm having a difficult time recovering from it, and so I'm in this trauma feedback loop. Oh, I see, I'm in a trauma feedback loop, right? And so I'm gonna work with. We have to work in community, right? I'm gonna work with whoever I need to work with to help me resolve my kind of the unresolved trauma in my nervous system. Now I can sit down and actually take a breath. So here's the thing. We're acting, our machinery's acting exactly as designed. It's just looking for safety in the best way that it can. And our judgment that it's shameful and that we're bad people or that we've got a morality problem or something is misinformation. That's like, we're just wrong, right? So there's shame and blame. They come into it, but it's not about that. That's like, when that comes in, it's like, that's a misunderstanding. I just had a friend, a relapse the other day, and very full of shame. And I was like, well, hang on a second, let's understand what happened here. What happened just before you relapse? Like, what happened there, right? And it was all a trauma response. So, you know, so it's kind of, we need to kind of understand what's happening, and that we're actually, there's nothing wrong with us. We just need to clear the unresolved trauma in the system and actually recover. There's a process. You get traumatized, the body goes through a certain process, and then, you know, you release it. Like an animal gets chased by, like a gazelle gets chased by a cheetah. They run and run and run, and then and then the gazelle gets away, and the cheetah goes away, and what happens afterward? The cheetah stands there and shakes all that, you know, cortisol and all the stress and everything from that encounter, and shakes it off. That's what I'm talking about. We don't do that. We don't shake it off. We just hang on to it, right? We have to go through our version of shaking to clear the trauma, to actually come back to normal again. And we don't get that in addiction. And then now society's putting all kinds of misunderstanding around shame and blame, and putting us in the basement in the basements and stuff. And we have to be anonymous. And it's just like, really? Just say. Anyway.
You just touched on something that the last thing on my list I want to talk to you about. Well, not the last thing, but, and you said it before, but unresolved trauma. The path to resolving trauma, in your opinion, is that always the path to healing the addictive actions?
Yep. Yeah. That, in my experience, that's the, you know, there are many ways to get there, but that's the path. Yeah.
Okay. So how I know it's a very simplistic question, but how does one do that when they have to bring on other baggage? I'm thinking in dealing with someone just the other day, I'm thinking, well, you're having shame and blame about that, but you're carrying around other people on your back, loved ones, who are exhibiting shame and taking blame for your actions. So now you got that, you've got this, and undoubtedly they probably even share in the trauma. So how does one?
You're speaking to addiction being a family affair, and I get that. I actually, you know, that's a whole nother podcast. Really, I'm going to take you in a little different direction.
Okay.
Because you're talking about blame and shame and judgment and stuff, which is mental. And trauma recovery is about getting back in the body and dealing with it at the level of the nervous system.
Okay.
So we're either gear up or we're shut down, or we're gear up or we're shut down. We want to get to this place where we're what we call ventral, where we're even, or we've got resilience, and we don't have these highs and lows. And you can't get there with the mind. You have to address it at a nervous system level. So recovery program needs to start with, how do you do that? And so we have the autonomic nervous system that takes over, right, and runs our heart and our blood pressure and all the things. We have one entry point into the autonomic nervous system that we can affect our nervous system. What is that? The breath.
Okay. So
we learn how to actually leverage the power of the breath to rewire the nervous system and bring it into ventral and out of this super high state, or this super dorsal state. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. We'll move on to the next section. Again, I want to remind everybody, if you're a parent, mentor, or practitioner who loves, cares, or works with young adults at risk, in trouble, or maybe even in a program, Parenting Your Child in Recovery.com is a non-clinical option that accelerates and multiplies the results that you are getting with your current evidence-based treatment. We'll have information for that in the notes. Also, we'll put all Elizabeth's information in there, and it's extensive, and we're going to talk about that right now, because I want to get to your project. The first thing I want to step on and talk about is the book. Talk to me about the book, you know, how it was conceived, you know, what information you're trying to deliver.
Oh, okay. Let me just grab it real quick.
Sorry.
Here's the book, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power.
Okay.
And It's a book for chronic pain sufferers and those who care for them, doctors, nurses, family members, and friends. It offers proven techniques to clear pain and live a life free from suffering from a former chronic pain sufferer, me, who searched the globe for answers and found them. As I said, I lived with chronic pain for a long time. These are non-pharmaceutical techniques to clear chronic pain. And these work because chronic pain significantly changes the brain, and only by addressing those changes can healing occur. This book shares techniques and my experiences and insights using the tools, and readers will learn how chronic stress and our reaction to it continue to contribute to chronic pain, and how to change your behavior to alleviate it. Proven methods that help heal chronic pain, including a healthy mindset, focus, mindfulness, ancestral clearing, meditation, and breathwork. And the critical elements for healing, for healthy self-care, including a daily practice. So it's kind of a thin book, but it gets to the point. It's dense. It's not a lot to it, but there's a lot there.
Okay. I want to ask you something about, you just mentioned, when you told the story, gave me a brief look into your life in the beginning, you talked about basically what I thought you were saying was, even though you were having pain, you had desensitized yourself from it, not even realizing that you were in pain. Is that an accurate?
Well, we more like another word for that would be accommodated to it.
Okay.
We get I'll give you an example. You hear a sound, and you hear it for a while, and then the body goes, okay, I get that, and then it starts attending to a new sound, to another stitch, to something else. It gets used to the thing, and it realizes it's not an issue. Right? It accommodates. So we have this ability in the nervous system, in our sensory system, we can hear signals, but we can accommodate to them, and so that we're ready to see a new signal. It's kind of a basic kind of foundational piece of neuroscience.
Okay. I want to ask you another question while I got you here. So I'm assuming that under that definition, there are probably a percentage of people walking around in chronic pain and basically have no real idea they're in chronic pain.
Yeah, 25% of the NIH estimates that 25% of North America suffers from chronic pain across all socioeconomic and age groups. And the World Health Organization pre-COVID estimated a fifth of the world. So it's a thing. It's this silent epidemic. And again, people don't really know that chronic pain is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So, somebody who's grieving, who's got that grief experience for 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, they're in chronic pain, chronic stress, right? So yes, a lot of people are walking around in chronic pain and don't know it.
Any suggestions for people who think that they're just having a great number of bad days in a row? Any suggestion for them what they could do to realize or, think about, what am I, just having bad luck, or have I been suffering in pain? Because I think a lot of people walk around and literally couldn't tell you unless you sat them down and shook them.
Yeah. So chronic pain, what's the difference between acute pain and chronic pain? So we have a thing called a stress response in the body that's activated when we perceive or when there's a threat, perceived or otherwise. And we meet, there's a whole bunch of physiological, psychological things that arise to meet the moment. We meet it, the threat goes away, stress response goes back into the off position. In chronic pain, the stress response gets stuck in the on position. And so now we're sitting in hypervigilance. We're always looking for the threat, right? So the people can relate to that. All right, so that's an issue. Now, what happens in the brain because of that? So hypervigilance, always looking for the threat. Also, I can't think straight. There's a lot of confusion in the brain. So I don't remember where I just put my keys down. I don't remember where they are, right? Somebody just told me their name. I don't remember what it was. So the memory part of the brain is affected by chronic pain. And the emotional center in the brain is affected by chronic pain. And we get a very negative spin on life. So that's speaking to your person that you're referencing. I'm having a bad day. I'm having a whole bunch of bad days, right? That's a brain on chronic pain. The thing is that not only am I having a bunch of bad days, but it gets turned into, and I'm bad. And now we're really off to the races. Right? So we have to understand the landscape we're working in, which I just laid out pretty quickly. And then we have to understand, in order to heal that, we have to bring in modalities that heal those changes. Opiates and benzos don't do that.
Right.
Breath work does. All the things I talk about in my book, all those things are the things that heal a brain on chronic pain.
Yeah. Elizabeth, take me home here for the last few minutes. I want to get a combination question here. First thing is, enlighten me a little bit more about the ancestral clearing, and then kind of mold that into, what kind of services you offer and what it looks like to work with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So ancestral clearing was a modality that I was introduced to when I was in that pain program, and I was so impressed. It's really a spiritual energy healing modality. That's actually a prayer practice where we ask, we've got an issue. Say I have an issue with my mom and what happened when I was little, and I don't know how to clear it. Right. I don't know I don't know how to release it. I know I have it, but I don't want it anymore. Now we ask Source, please help, or God, or whatever you call that which made all of this. Please help us. Please help me release this. And ancestral clearing that's what we do in ancestral clearing. We help people release stuff they're holding on to that's no longer serving them. That's what the process is. And I've been a practitioner of this since 2014. I've worked with thousands and thousands of people. It's fundamental, and I feel it's a fundamental. It's one of the first thing I do with a new client is I help them breathe. I teach them how to breathe, and they get in 3 minutes. They're like, all of a sudden their nervous system's changed, and now they've got their own power, because I didn't do anything but guide them into a process. They did the breathing, right? They're there, and then I take them into an ancestral clearing, because we come into this life with the gifts and the burdens of our ancestors, unfinished business from the past, and ancestral clearing helps us release that stuff. So now I can see a little more clearly my mission in this moment, right? I'm not so weighed down by the burdens of the past. So I do stress management work. I do ancestral clearing, and I do addiction recovery work. All these things help. We really want to get your sea legs stability in your recovery. So my biggest thing is like, what causes relapse? What do we need to do to prevent relapse? That's really where my focus is. So I bring all these tools in to help with that. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Very, 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 in dealing and seeing so much addiction, and this is a dumb statement, but anybody can see obviously that opiates and benzos for treatment. I mean, obviously there's going to be a deficit of that, but sometimes some of the things that really make sense, we don't hear enough about. So I'm hoping that somebody hears this and understands that, this is probably a part of my life and how I've been living and what I've been feeling, and understand that, like you said, addiction is an attempt to adapt, and sort of save yourself, because we want to save ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, Elizabeth, I appreciate you bringing that to the show. I really do.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it more myself, because, I think it's fascinating, and it's obviously true. It's obviously true. There's a lot of trauma out there. We as people are a bowl of trauma. So that's the way it is. Elizabeth, thank you again for being with us. Okay. Remember, everybody, I will have Elizabeth information. Will be up some contact information, some of our programs, everything I can do to help you get to her and help yourself. So, as in parting, we like to remember and remind everybody: let's get out there and help somebody get better, help somebody stay better. Most importantly, let's get out there and help somebody be better. Thank you.